Welcome back to another edition of One-on-One Sports, where today we'll be talking about
F1,
the World Cup,
and the NFL.
And it all starts right now. Welcome inside another edition of One-on-One Sports. Let's get things started off with the quick hitters. And Chase, NFL in Germany, smash hit.
Oh, of course. Sweet Caroline, take me home country roads. It was an awesome environment in Germany. I hope it leads to more games in Germany and other international games. We are not that far away from a possible expansion overseas.
I mean, where would you see a team going in the NFL overseas? Like maybe like in Berlin, in London, where would you see a team?
I think London, but Germany is making a great case with the atmosphere they brought, just the amount of people that filled that stadium, and we're excited about the NFL. Again, I think we're very far away from a possible European division, but making a great case for it.
I mean, we had NFL Europe, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you had stars like, Adam Vinatieri, Kurt Warner, James Harrison. They all came through NFL Europe. So, I mean, we definitely could see another team there. But, I mean, I think the best part was, they were serving, beer by the pitcher in the stands. And so I got to say, that's just a great addition to any NFL game. One thing that's not a great addition, the XFL. Who cares? The XFL draft was, what was it, today, yesterday?
They don't go away.
They don't go, they do go away. They always fail.
Yeah, but then somebody else is like, maybe if I do it.
Maybe if I do the same thing, then things will change.
Definition of insanity.
See, you get it,
But here's the thing with the XFL, is the XFL actually did have success before the pandemic. Minor success, but probably the most success we've seen from one of these minor league teams. The USFL, though, now is here, struggling a little bit, and now they're going to split talent between the two? Because you have players jumping ship already.
These things didn't work in the 1980s when the USFL worked for 3 seasons, when you actually had decent players in the league. The XFL, first year, it flopped. XFL before COVID, it flopped. Okay, but let me ask you this, folks, okay? If Ben DiNucci, former James Madison Duke, and A.J. McCarron are your star quarterbacks in the draft, those are your headline guys, you are doomed to fail. I'm just saying, Chase.
They started in the NFL.
They started. How many games?
Ben DiNucci was in there for a little bit.
He was in there for the Cowboys a little bit. Next thing you know, who's the other guy? Oh, gosh, it wasn't Taylor Heineke. Trace McSorley. We're going to get Trace McSorley in there.
They've given us talent like P.J. Walker, who just got benched.
He was third-string quarterback,
There's been some talent.
Okay. Some. That's a stretch.
Listen, you got The Rock. They have The Rock. He's
not even playing.
He's not playing.
He's just feeding the money.
He's trying to make it happen.
It's not going to happen. It's like Michael Jordan investing in GameStop. It's doomed to fail. You know what's not doomed to fail, though? Animal encounters in sports. With your Pittsburgh Steelers finding the pigeons on the field and rising to victory.
Listen, the Steelers might be 2-0 with T.J. Watt, but the bigger storyline is that they're 2-0 with those pigeons on the field.
Yes.
It's iconic now behind the luscious locks of Kenny Pickett.
Oh, yeah.
For them to just be a crowd of pigeons. And then a 1-yard touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
A QB sneak. It is now tradition, and I think that's the only way the Steelers can maybe not lose this season, is if the pigeons, whatever fertilizer they're putting on the field.
So they're going 11-6 the rest of the year.
Oh, 100%.
Because they're going to win 8 straight games because of the pigeons, and I also think that I have much better hair than Kenny Pickett. But also, interesting animal encounters, right? You have the bat dog with the Greensboro Grasshoppers.
Which might be the greatest addition of sports ever.
It might be. There's also
I think
one.
We could debate
there
that.
was one at New Hampshire when I went up there for the Elon game. Who fetched the kickoff tee?
Oh yes,
the biggest applause of the day was for a dog biting the kickoff tee and bringing it to the sidelines. I mean, you can't beat it. You also can't beat, Tony Romo's commentary over a cat on the field, comparing a kitten to Jim Nantz running track in high school. You can't beat it. And also, special shout out to the black cat on the field at the Giants games, because they haven't been in the playoffs since a black cat ran on the field on Monday night, which means again they're doomed to fail too, and I love when they fail. But okay. We have a pretty great atmosphere here on One-on-One Sports.
Oh, we do.
College game day, heading to the great state of Montana in the brawl of the wild. Best college football atmosphere.
What makes it so great?
There's mountains everywhere. Have you seen a snow game there?
Lots of places have mountains.
With a football stadium next to them? With snow?
Well,
blanketed in white.
I think you have another school that is known for its mountainous
I do.
area.
Appalachian State. Hate their fan base, but guess what? They got a pretty good stadium up at the Rocket, Kid Brewer. But I mean, you also throw in Neyland Stadium. If we can show the picture of me breaking and entering to Neyland Stadium, it wasn't illegal. The door was open.
That still sounds like you're.
It wasn't breaking and entering.
Breaking, but
I walked right through the tunnel. The door was wide open.
Sounds like trespassing.
I'm sorry. No, it's not. But also, special shout out to Death Valley, though, because I think we can both agree.
Oh, yes.
Clemson's Death Valley, when, they take the buses and they ride down the stadium, run down the hill. That's pretty great.
Run down the hill. And then you got to talk about, of course, you got to bring up Penn State, specifically
the whiteout games.
It's one of the best in college sports. There's no atmosphere quite like it. And then also, special shout out to Virginia Tech with Enter Sandman. I think it's great.
I don't like their fan base either, but
let's
break out the keys on third down. Maybe that can be the key to our offense, going 2-7 with Brent Pry.
Well, also, you got to mention Pitt with its
5,000 fans losing to Georgia Tech.
One of the best.
Oh yeah, definitely Pitt. But something that is the best. We have a brother combination coming to the F1 block. We've been waiting for this, y'all. Don't want to miss this one. Following last weekend's Mercedes finish at 1-2 at the Brazilian Grand Prix, we have a groundbreaking part of 101 Sports. The moment that we've been waiting for, Aiden Blake and Blake the Elder and Better, Javik Blake here.
The Elder and Better, I do appreciate that very, very much.
No, I'm better. We all know it.
So guys,
it's fact.
Who's the we? Who is the we?
Okay. Let's go on the debate topic first, and then you can get at each other's throats. Okay, guys.
I got to stretch.
Brazilian Grand Prix last weekend. Abu Dhabi coming up this week. Best midfield team that we've seen so far. Javik, start off. You are
best
the Elder.
Midfield team. I'm wearing the orange tie.
Okay.
Mercedes, in my opinion, best midfield team this season. Now they're fifth in the Constructors' Championship, 148 points. They've got a podium, but they shouldn't be punished for just having 148 points. Lando Norris is 113 of the 148. Their second driver, Daniel Ricciardo, we'll get to this later. One of the most disappointing people in Formula One, one of the most disappointing seasons in Formula One. It's a very good car, and it can't be punished by Daniel Ricciardo just being terrible. Lando Norris has become the best of the rest drivers.
Hey.
Lando Norris is the best of the rest drivers, which means the car is good, the strategies are good, and Daniel Ricciardo just can't get it done, and McLaren can't be punished for that.
Get at him. Yell at him.
Well, here we go. Daniel Ricciardo is a 30-plus-year-old man that doesn't know how to drive a car, so that's given.
That's true.
They shouldn't have signed him in the first place.
That is very true.
That is a waste of a contract.
Very true.
Lando Norris, on the other hand, his sim racing qualities transition into his real racing qualities, and McLaren is not the greatest midfield team in the world.
Is it Mercedes?
No. It's the blue and pink Alpine.
Oh, I like the tie combination.
Yes,
there you go.
yes, the blue and the pink.
Look at that fashionable.
It's almost like they're brothers matching the ties of their teams.
It's like I planned it. Alpine's currently in a midfield fight with McLaren, but they're winning that midfield fight, must I say.
I mean, Daniel Ricciardo not existing would help that.
Currently, they have 167 constructors' points, which is far more than McLaren.
That's 19 more.
Far more than McLaren. They have been a strong team with a 2-driver combo. Two.
That's an unfair advantage.
Two. Granted, both of them hate each other.
But is that not really a team effort here? You're just driving the car.
As we found out this weekend with what happened with Max Verstappen and Checo, not really a team sport. There's divide.
Very much
it happened with
individual
Nico
sport.
Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton back when Nico Rosberg won his title. The divide within a team is very much a regular occurrence within F1.
Oh, yes. But for some reason, Otmar Safnow figured out how to make it work. Because Fernando put it on qualifying at the Montreal Grand Prix. Wonderful qualifying. But then fell back, but still managed points. McLaren, I think, was 5th or 6th in that qualifying and full out of the points. I don't know how you can say McLaren is the best midfield team when they struggle to stay in the top 10 with a 2-driver combo.
Yeah.
And Fernando Alonso,
you tell him.
P5
Get after
this weekend.
Yeah. Like Flavor in his ear.
I don't know how you can say McLaren is the best midfield team.
Yes, Aiden.
To be fair, maybe if Daniel Ricciardo hadn't accidentally decided that driving on the track was a terrible idea and just take everyone out, it would have been better for McLaren. But either way, we have lots of topics to get to.
Yes, we do, exactly. Okay, guys. Even I, an F1 novice, who ironically worked at an F1 track and still does not know a lot about F1. I know who George Russell is. I know Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc. Who is the best new driver? Who should I be watching out for, Aiden Blake?
He's not very much a new driver, but he's an old man that's come back with Kevin Magnussen.
Okay.
The Viking that has come back from being in the sport for all of Haas's eternity, and then leaving for 1 year, and then coming back for the rest of Haas's eternity, because he is the greatest new driver of all time. He has come back in his mid-30s, stuck the car on pole this weekend.
So he's Michael Jordan.
Absolutely.
He left for 1 year, then
He
came
comes
back,
back and he's 10 times better.
Yeah.
He has made Haas the team that every single American F1 person has been dreaming for their whole life. He has put the car on pole. He has gotten them more constructors' points than Mick because, well, Mick, I love the Schumachers, but Mick doesn't know what he's doing. They should fire him. But he has 25 total points this season. Haas is 8th in the constructors, and they are just a very strong lower midfield team that has so much potential going into the next season. And with Mick gone, Nico Hülkenberg is on the signing block. So maybe we see a two-driver combo of two old men that know how to race.
Yeah.
I would love to see that personally.
Two old guys who know how to race, unlike Daniel Ricciardo, who is old and
Does not know how to race.
No,
not at all.
My best new driver is the guy who appeared for a total of 96 hours in Formula One and had the best weekend out of anybody in Formula One this year. This is a Dutchman named Nick de Vries. He came to the Italian Grand Prix. He starts in FP1 for Sebastian Vettel in Aston Martin, a car he had not driven throughout the year. Then he switches teams midway through the weekend, which never happens because he's a reserve driver and he got loaned around and passed around all over. He replaced Alex Albon in FP3 for Williams. Then he not only does very well in the Williams car, a car that he had not driven once in the entire year, qualifies Q2 that afternoon. He spent, at this point, 7 hours in the car. Then goes to the race because Daniel Ricciardo's car decides to stop working at the end. He finishes 9th. Then signs with AlphaTauri a month later. And now he has the same points in one race in a car that everyone knows, in Williams, that is the worst of the worst in F1. If you look at the standings, Nick de Vries, 1 race, 2 points. Nick Latifi, 21 races.
Okay. Time out.
So because of
Time
that,
out. Flag on the play.
Nicholas, the GOAT, Latifi, is the
GOAT.
greatest Formula One driver of all time. He is the sole reason Max Verstappen has a world championship. And
Lewis Hamilton's not in that conversation?
screw Lewis. He is no longer the GOAT.
He's got a sir
He
in
is-
front of his name.
I don't care. He got knighted. He
was knighted.
What does that matter? They drive cars in
Means he's
circles.
good.
Nicholas Latifi is better. He bends his car in the right opportunities. He makes the race. Interesting.
Nick Latifi is the
No,
GOAT.
no, I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
Nick de
Sit down.
Vries, and it's de Vries, not de Vries. Races.
This is great. We should have done this sooner.
He races in Formula E, which is a bunch of middle-aged, I wouldn't even call them adults, drive around in
Yes.
borderline non-street circuits and end up crashing 95% of the time because they suck at driving. The reason that Nick de Vries was in a car for 92 hours and has not been in the talking point of next year's Williams is because he sucks. That's just a fact.
He signed with AlphaTauri. Obviously, somebody thinks he's good.
Well, Helmut Marko has a little bit of brain damage. He's old.
But I will say, Nick Latifi is good. Is the greatest driver
is
at all
the
time
greatest.
at not finishing races and making everything exciting.
Oh,
Do you want exciting races or boring races?
I will agree with that.
Speaking of exciting, okay, guys, last little thing here. Winners and losers. Javik, let's start with some winners here.
All right, let's get aboard. Let's get aboard the Steiner ship to
Yes,
the moon.
yes.
They
Steiner ship for the win.
agreed on
Steiner
something.
ship.
Steiner ship to the moon. They had everything going on.
I don't think it's Steiner ship. I think it's Steiner yacht now because it's upgraded. It started with a dinghy, and I think now we're at a yacht with the most success that they've had this season.
But the Steiner yacht maybe even a spaceship to the moon. It's been an incredible season for Haas. They performed incredibly well. Pole position this weekend, 8-point finishes this year. For a car that was just so bad and a team that was so in the dumps last year, they've completely turned it around. Kevin Magnussen has been a massive part of that. Mick Schumacher has been a very tiny part of that.
Well,
but
it's Mick
Gunther Steiner has been unbelievable in the direction of Haas. It has been so much fun to watch, and they've really been the winners this year.
All I have to say is we look like a bunch of legends. That's all Gunther says at the end of races.
That's all he says.
That's all I have to say.
That's all he says.
There we go.
Okay,
all
but
it
also, quickly, losers here. Okay. You guys, what's this about Daniel Ricciardo? Again, I don't watch him, but what has happened with him?
Okay, so you know when you first get your learner's permit and you learn to drive and you have trouble driving in straight lines, making turns, knowing where the brake is, knowing
hitting
where
the
pedal
cones,
is.
hitting some,
So instead of hitting cones, he hits walls, other people. Kevin Magnussen, not very good at the whole turning around in circle, just not good. It's been his worst year since his third year in F1, which was 2013. He's out of his seat. He's not even coming back to McLaren next year. And he's just fallen off a cliff. He's a guy who had so much promise, and all the Ricciardo fans like, oh, why is Daniel Ricciardo leaving? He's just such an iconic figure in F1. You perform well, you get a seat. You perform terrible, you don't have a seat. It's that simple.
Exactly.
He's performed disgustingly terrible, and therefore he does not have a seat.
Okay, and quickly, you're a loser. We got to wrap this up. This has been too much fun.
Loser has got to be Ferrari. Ferrari is just, it's ugly.
It's not good?
It's
Terrible.
terrible.
It's not good?
It is awful.
It's Italian. It's bad Italian food.
It's horrible Italian food. It's the aftermath.
thing as
It's
bad
the
Italian food?
aftermath of bad Italian food. They have horrible strategy. They have the unreliability. Sainz just like blew up in Austria with his whole rear engine on fire. They take way too many power unit changes. They take way many engine changes.
Way too many.
They end up at the back of the grid most of the time because of penalties.
Ooh, that's tough.
And Mattia Binotto just reportedly got kicked out of his seat for next year. He is the sole reason that they suck. Mattia Binotto should not be in a job.
Imagine winning 2 of your first 3 races and then not winning a race for the rest of the year.
The whole season.
Could be Ferrari, and it is Ferrari.
Again, speaking 2 of 3 here, it's been great to have 2 of the 3 guys on this stage be the Blake brothers. Great having you guys on Talk Some F1. We'll be back with Matt Laguza talking World Cup. Welcome to our World Cup block of this week's episode. You might be wondering, where's our soccer guy, Matt Laguza? Well, he's going to be over at the BAM breaking down the U.S. men's national team squad. Then he's going to come back and rejoin me for some quick fire questions. Matt, take it away.
Thanks, Gray. We're going to go into this real quick. We're going to do a position-by-position breakdown of the U.S. men's national team squad. And as we go, give what I think should be their starting 11. So let's get into this with the goalkeepers. Now, the goalkeepers, I think it's exactly what everybody expected, except for the obvious absence of Zach Steffen. We got Matt Turner, Ethan Horvath, and Sean Johnson here. Zach Steffen has been in bad form so far over in England playing there, and he's also had some injury problems. He's been the #1 goalkeeper for the U.S. for a long time, but Matt Turner at Arsenal, he has taken that role. And if we go to the starting 11 prediction, I think we all know he's going to be that guy in net for them. He's done great. He's had 15 clean sheets in his last 20 appearances, and he has been absolutely outstanding. So now let's go over to the defenders. We're going to start with the center backs. Greg Berhalter has chosen 4 center backs here for the U.S., and all of them, they're pretty much exactly what we expected. A very surprise pick with Tim Ream from Fulham. I think we all enjoy that. Cameron Carter-Vickers, who was arguably Celtics' best player last season and also has had a great start to the season this year, is in there. Walker Zimmerman from Nashville, and everybody's favorite miserable center back, Aaron Long, is still on this team. If we go to the starters, who I think it's going to be Tim Ream and Walker Zimmerman. Walker Zimmerman is probably the staple in this back line for the U.S. Tim Ream has the relationship with the starting left back, Anthony Robinson. They play together at Fulham, so he should get the start there. I am just hoping Greg Berhalter does not go with Aaron Long because he is the U.S. versions of Harry Maguire. Let's go over to the wings here for the defense. Fullback, he's chosen 5. Now, there's really only one surprise here, and that has got to be Walker Zimmerman's teammate over at Nashville, Shaq Moore. I love the pick. He pretty much takes the place of Reggie Cannon, who has been a regular in the U.S. camps over the past couple years. He doesn't make it. Anthony Robinson and Serginho Dest should be the starters on the left and right. DeAndre Yedlin, a veteran who's the only member of this team who was at the World Cup in 2014, 8 years ago. And then obviously Shaq Moore. Here's what I think the back line is going to be with Matt Turner, Anthony Robinson, Tim Ream, Walker Zimmerman, and Serginho Dest. Now the midfield, that is where my first mistake comes into play here from Greg Berhalter. If we look at it, it's pretty much exactly what we expected. Brendan Aronson, Gio Reyna, Kellen Acosta, Yunus Musa, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Christian Roldan, and Luca De La Torre. Now, the one piece that I think is missing from this, it's got to be Malik Tillman. The U.S. is really good at the positions of 6 and 8. They've got a lot of depth there and a lot of versatility where people can move around. But the one problem is at the number 10 position, you've got Gio Reyna and you have Brendan Aronson. But they're also a part of the U.S. team's depth on the wing. Malik Tillman's that kind of guy that has been playing really well for the Rangers over in Scotland, actually scored on selection day. He did not make the team. So that's the really one disappointing thing about this roster for me. If we go over to what I think it's going to be Tyler Adams starting at the 6. We're going to have Weston McKennie at the 8 and Brendan Aronson at the 10. Brendan Aronson brings that high pressing, high work rate in that attacking third that I think the U.S. needs. He also has the creativity that a lot of these guys do not have. Finally, we're going to go to the forwards. This is what everybody's been talking about so far for the U.S. Everybody hates what Greg Berhalter has done. So let's take a look at that. We have the obvious ones, Christian Pulisic and Timothy Weah. We knew they were always going to be there. Jesus Ferreira, who led the MLS in non-penalty goals, he gets there at the number 9. And then Josh Sargent, who's been in great form for Norwich so far, scored against Zach Steffen, who did not make this team. Now, the two problems here, Jordan Morris, Haji Wright. Haji Wright made it over fan favorites Ricardo Pepi and Jordan Pefok, both of whom have been great form over in their top 5 leagues this year in Europe. Haji Wright, he scored 9 goals so far in Turkey, but hasn't been everybody's favorite. Ricardo Pepi scored 4 goals in qualifiers for the U.S. He did not make the squad. And then Jordan Morris, the guy that everybody hates. I don't really know why. I think he brings a physicality that the rest of these attackers don't have. I think he's going to be huge against some of these strong center backs that these European nations will have. So if we look at this final starting lineup here, we got Matt Turner in goal, Anthony Robinson, Serginho Dest on the sides, Tim Ream and Walker Zimmerman up the middle, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie and Brendan Aronson in the middle, and then Josh Sargent, Christian Pulisic, and Timothy Weah up top. Now, Gray, the real question is, how far is the U.S. going to go in this World Cup?
I don't know. You tell me, man.
So, we look at this. I'm thinking they finish second in the group here.
Okay,
I think
agree.
Wales is going to be a tough competition. I think we can both agree that England is going to get the win here. They're going to be top of the group. I think the U.S. is going to get a convincing win over Iran. I think they have that ability to do it. Question's all going to come down to that first game against Wales. I think whoever wins that is going to end up getting second in the group.
And the thing with Wales is that they were in bad form coming into this one. I think they only won 2 of their last 10 games. Iran, they do what they want to do because they're in a very weak group. And then, of course, England. We saw this in 2010. I think the U.S. could potentially squeak a draw here just because we've seen that before, big stage competition. They had a 1-1 draw against England a few years ago, against France before that World Cup tune-up. It was a 1-1 draw before France would play in the World Cup. So I think maybe the U.S., but maybe that's just me being optimistic.
We'll see what happens.
But it's not coming home, I can tell you that.
Oh,
it's
definitely
not coming home. But okay, we got some quick-fire questions for you, Matt. Some penalty kicks, if you will. Let's start off with who's going to be that team that, makes the upset, a surprise team to make the knockouts? Who's going to overperform?
I think it has to be Denmark. They got to the semifinals of the Euros in 2020. They have a great defense led by Joachim Andersen of Crystal Palace and Andreas Christensen, who just made the move over to Barcelona. They played great in the Euros, and in qualifiers, they only conceded 3 goals the entire 10 games, I believe they played. So I think they're a really strong team. I have them making it to the semifinals again, beating England in the quarters just like they did last time. Then I have them losing to Germany, who end up going to the final.
Okay, and so team that's, who's going to disappoint? Okay.
Well, I was trying to choose a team, one of the top teams that I think we're going to get grouped. I just don't think there's one that's that surprising. I think there are a lot of tough groups out there. They're not going to get there, so my disappointing team has to be France.
Yes,
They're dealing with a lot of injuries in the midfield, and they really don't have anybody there. They've got Kamavinga and Chouameni, who are going to be in that. I'm assuming they're going to play a double pivot in a 3-man midfield. I think they're going to be the 6 and the 8 there. Not really sure how they're going to do it, but other than that, they really have no depth there. They've got Guendouzi, they've got Rabiot, but other than that, there's really not. But I think their defense and their attack are going to carry them through that group. They're going to finish second to Denmark, but then they're going to lose in the round of 16.
But like you said, no depth really, no Pogba, no Conte, and again, the trend of World Cup winners, the following World Cup, the last 2 times we've seen it with Spain in 14 and Germany 18, they didn't even make the round of 16.
Didn't even make it out.
But okay, breakout player. We've seen it with Chucky Lozano, James Rodriguez. You mentioned Harry Maguire. He had a great 2018 World Cup. Come on.
Yeah.
He was really a breakout. He got that big move to Man United. Who's going to be that breakout player?
See, there's a lot of young talent here
Yes.
in the World Cup this year. We've got Anthony, Vinicius, Musiala, De Ketelaere, Siemens, Gakpo. There's so many good guys there that are playing all over the world. For me, it's got to be Musiala. I wanted to really go for one of those Brazilians, but the thing is, there's just so much up in the top. There's just too much to go around. I don't think anybody's really going to stand out in that attack. So I'm going to go with Jamal. I have them going to the final. I think he could be in the conversation for Golden Boot, but I think he's going to be more of a creative midfielder there, get a lot of assists, could have somewhere between 6 and 9 goal contributions is my prediction there. They're a very attacking team.
Yeah.
But no, I've got Jamal Musiala.
Okay, quickly, one word. Who gets the Golden Boot?
It's got to be Messi.
Messi? Okay, you see Messi. Who goes farther, Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi. I think they go semifinals and Portugal gets out in the quarterfinals.
And also that Portugal locker room right now seems to be a
That's not looking
little
too
bit
good.
severed. And okay, one more. Who's raising the trophy?
It's going to happen. It's going to be Brazil and Germany. Brazil is getting revenge for 2014 semifinals.
I like it.
They're going to win 3-1. Neymar's going to have a brace, and he's going to win the golden ball.
And again, it's not coming home. So that's going to do it here for the World Cup. We're throwing it to the NFL.
Welcome back to 1-1 Sports, where now we're talking about NFL. And we're talking about a couple different topics here. I'm here with Kane Strickland and Max Wallace. Let's talk about head coaches. We've already seen a couple get fired. Caden, who do you think's the next one?
You know, I think by far the worst head coach in the NFL this season has been Nathaniel Hackett. Broncos country, they've been doing less riding and a lot more crying this year under Hackett. And, you know, they had a lot of expectations. They were supposed to be a playoff team headed into the year. They've been horrible. You know, there was a stat I saw. They would be 8-1 if they had scored 18 points every single game. Their defense has been all world, but their offense has been the worst in the NFL, only 14 points per game. Hackett doesn't know what he's doing on that side of the ball. You can say all you want about his defense. You can say defense wins championships, but not when your offense can't put points on the board.
So what you're telling me is there is a good aspect to this Broncos team. So why is Hackett getting fired exactly? Unlike one of these coaches, a coach of a 3-7 team, he came in to help this quarterback blow up. The first overall pick a few years back, Trevor Lawrence. Doug Peterson's got to go, Caden. He is doing this team wrong.
Look, what I said about the Broncos, they had high expectations. You know, the Jags are 3-7 right now. That's about where I would expect them going into the season.
But Trevor Lawrence is playing subpar, and he wasn't supposed to be playing subpar. Doug Peterson was supposed to fix him. What is he doing? 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a sub-61 QBR? Snooze fest. Come on, you got to have a good coach to build up this young player. Jags don't have it right now.
The Jags don't have a great winning culture. They don't have too much talent around Trevor Lawrence. He's really being set up to fail.
What about all the money they spent this offseason?
Who'd they spend it on?
Christian
Kirk was their top,
another new wide receiver
guy.
for this
who they overpaid for.
They did that, but they have him now. They have him now, and they're not using him correctly. Doug Peterson is holding this team back. This team could be easily 6-7 win team with the talent they have right now.
Wow, 6-7 wins going into the season. I don't think they're even projected 6-7 wins the whole year.
They could be a 6-7 win team by the end of this season is what I thought at the start of the year. Now with Doug Peterson in, I wouldn't expect them to see them win more than 4, and they're already at 3.
Well, those are some hot takes. Personally, I may have gone for a certain Las Vegas coach if they didn't already owe him tons of money and are keeping him around.
Yeah.
Or a certain Arizona coach that hasn't really lived up to expectations like you guys are saying. But let's move on. This past weekend, we saw what many are calling one of, if not the best catch in NFL history made by Justin Jefferson on 4th and 18 that helped them lead to that win. But there's been a lot of great catches. Caden, what do we see as the greatest catch of all time?
What I'm going to say about that Justin Jefferson catch, I think it was one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult catch in NFL history. But it came in the regular season. I don't think it meant all that much. In my opinion, the most important NFL catch, the greatest NFL catch of all time, came in Super Bowl 42, 3rd and 5, with the Giants down by 4. Eli Manning somehow escapes not 1 but 2 defenders from a sack, and he just slings the ball downfield, somehow gets it right on the money David Tyree just goes up, pins it against his noggin, comes down with it. Only time that's ever been done on the biggest of stage. Helmet catch is the greatest catch in the history of the NFL.
I really disagree with that. How can you put that up against what's known as the catch? A madhouse at Candlestick. Dwight Clark rises above, sends the 49ers to a Super Bowl, beats the Dallas Cowboys, who have owned that franchise for the past 4 years prior. Come on, Caden. That has so much more meaning, so much more difficulty, and so much more spectacularity.
Are you serious?
Dwight Clark.
Are you serious?
I'm absolutely serious.
Look. It came at a huge moment. It was in the NFC Championship to beat the Cowboys, who had owned the Niners for years.
Yeah.
It was really, I don't think there was anything special about the catch. It was a routine high point catch. There wasn't any tight coverage. It was a good ball.
It sent them to the Super Bowl. It sent them to the Super Bowl with under a minute left.
Yeah, but it wasn't in the Super Bowl. Helmet catch came
Did
in the
that
Super
win them
Bowl.
the game?
It set up the game-winning play.
So what?
It was a
That
much
won them the
harder
game.
catch, much more difficult catch, much more spectacular catch.
No
Maybe
way.
not,
I
maybe
think
not
you're
more
both wrong.
meaningful, like in NFL history, but much greater, like much more difficulty.
The difficulty is not there. Dwight Clark is 6'4", reached up. Vin Scully said it in his broadcast. He stood 10 foot tall at Candlestick that night because of that catch. Did David Tyree stand 10 foot tall when he made that catch?
I think that was.
I don't think
like
so.
Not an exaggeration, like a metaphor for like he stood 10 feet tall.
Oh, it might have been, and it
in
certainly
importance,
was.
I
in
don't
importance.
think he was
But it
actually
was
10 feet tall.
He was 6'4", but he stood that tall with
That's
how
not-
much impact it had.
Yes,
Did
the
your catch have
impact-
as much impact
the
as
impact-
what's titled the catch? Or are you going to try and put something up against what's
If the
titled
helmet catch
the
happened,
catch?
whenever the hell that happened, like back in the day, back in old
Right.
Grandpa's day, it would have been called the catch too.
I beg your pardon? Grandpa's Day, Dwight Clark set this 49ers team up for their dynasty. This kickstarted them. Like I said at the top, this Dallas Cowboys team owned them the years prior, and they come into Candlestick, win that game, go on to the Super Bowl. Can't deny that, Caden.
Obviously, very important moment in NFL history, but the catch just wasn't that spectacular to me.
Called the catch.
I think you're both wrong, personally.
What's your opinion? What's your opinion,
The
Chase?
Pittsburgh fan in me is very biased, but there is one catch that did win a Super Bowl for that historic franchise. Santonio Holmes in the back of the end zone.
Was it
I
even a
think
catch?
In the record books it is, and it won them that Super Bowl. Or how about the one that kids across America were yelling every time they tried to make this catch?
Yeah, one of the most overhyped catches of all time.
Whoa.
It left an impact. Is
It
what
did
it
leave an
is one
impact.
thing. It did leave an impact, but like we said, the postseason atmosphere that ours had, it really lives
Exactly.
it up. The Beckham catch, great. Amazing catch. It really kick-started this generation, like you said, with the Odell. I love that, but it wasn't in the postseason. And it didn't have that much impact as the catch or David Tyree's helmet catch did.
All right, well, we talk a lot about impact. These guys that we're going to talk about right here, they're supposed to make a big impact. The #1 pick in the NFL draft. Quickly, we're halfway through the season, a little over. Who do we think is getting that #1 pick, Max?
I'm going to have to say the Raiders. And because, like you said at the top, Josh McDaniels, oh my goodness, what a dumpster fire that organization has been. Then you have the owner of that organization say that he's doing a good job. What are they doing in Vegas?
Well,
They're certainly
they do have
gambling
to
on the
pay
wrong
him.
coach.
It's a mess. It's a mess in Vegas, but let's face it, their roster is so much better than a 2-win team. I think they'll pick up at least 1 win for the rest of the season.
What makes you say that? Because they can blow leads every game?
They've got the talent
They're
on the
what,
roster.
0-6 in one-possession games? Like, that's crazy, Katie.
Yeah, but they're keeping it within 1 possession.
They haven't proven they can win those games.
No, they
and that's
haven't.
where you start. You start by winning the game, not
Let's
by
talk
keeping
about a
it
team
close.
who hasn't done a whole lot of winning this season, and that's the Houston Texans. They've got the worst record in the league so far. They've only got 1 win. They've been atrocious. And quite frankly, I don't think they're trying to win. They want this #1 pick. When the Texans, not when the Texans,
The number
when
one pick? What does that even mean?
when the Raiders brought in Devontae Adams, they had playoff expectations, not
Okay.
2-7 expectations. They're
But
trying
where
to
are they
win.
now? They're 2-7, right?
They have the
Where are they
talent.
going to be in however many weeks we have left? 6 or 7, I think it is. at the bottom of the food chain. Why would they even try and
Not
kickstart
below the
anything
Texans.
now?
The Texans' roster is not good enough to win any
Look at
of-
who the Texans have left. They have the Commanders. They have the Browns. They have the Colts. They have the Jaguars. You're telling me they don't win at least 2 of those?
No. The Texans are by far the worst team on the.
Whoa! You don't think they can beat at least 2 of the teams I just
I
mentioned?
think they'll pick up maybe 1 win at most.
They're
maybe against
due
the
for
Colts.
another Texans win, Caden. They're due for another.
What is a
hard,
Texans win?
A hard, ugly,
There's not many
undeserved
Texans
wins.
wins.
There are not many, but there will be
Texans
at
haven't done a
least 2 more in
whole
the
lot of
last.
winning since Deshaun Watson was in town.
They're still going to pick up the wins. Like, who cares who's the quarterback? Davis Mills, all credit to him. He's no Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to say that by any means. But the Texans, when they need it, they're going to get it done. They're going to get at least 2 more. They're going to blow up this tank.
I don't know about that. When they brought in Lovie Smith as a coach, he doesn't bring anything to the table other than a cool beard. They brought him in to tank. They hired him because he's not a good coach, and they're not trying to win.
Well, he's worse at tanking than Josh McDaniels, apparently, so they're obviously
Josh
not coaching.
McDaniels not even trying to tank. He's just, I'm not going to say that. He's a fraud.
Well, if he's a
terrible.
fraud, doesn't that make him bad at tanking?
He's bad at well, he's good at tanking. He's not trying to tank. The Raiders aren't trying to lose out.
They're not trying to, but they're going to.
But the
That's
Texans
point.
are actively trying to tank. They want this #1 pick. Raiders want to win. That's what they had in mind when they brought in
They have
Devontae
not
Adams.
shown that they want to win. Daniels has been the worst coach in the league by far this year.
They've been playing hard, like you said, 1-possession games in 6 out of their, 8 games, 9 games? But they're playing them close. They just haven't got it done yet. They will.
Well, I think everybody's trying to win just a little bit. We'll be right back on 1-1 Sports. Thank you for watching this edition of 1-1 Sports.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Until next time, whose
Whose
side are you on?
Let's get one here. Maybe I hit the camera this time. Oh, yes.
Bullseye.